On election night, we'll find out the results of two key factors, and you may think that the presidency is the one that focus on. Oh no. On election night, the big one to look on is whether or not the Senate goes Republican or Democratic. Because if the Senate remains the way it is, your stimulus will come in a different time frame than if it goes Democratic. If a Biden win is announced on election night, Biden will have to come in and clean up a lot of hot mess across the board, including inability to get stimulus out by executive order, inability to get stimulus out by legislative order. But if the Senate is still Republican, what does that mean for your stimulus? This is McConnell versus Trump, but it could soon become McConnell versus Biden. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm here and you're here in a renewed, invigorated, and refreshed afternoon's LALATE. If you've seen me to be a little bit more ramped up and a little bit more positive, it's because I want you to be as well. Every time that I increase the mood and energy of this channel, some people always say, what is he drinking? No, it's not I'm drinking. Did he take a nap? Well, I did take a nap. And I have this really nice drink here. It's just, what is it called? Vitamin water. But, it's not the vitamin water. It is because I want you to get your stimulus. Let's get to the point here, people. I want you to get your stimulus, and to that, let's go to the front of the channel, subscribe. Subscribe because I'm here to get your stimulus. I'm not here to sell you insurance. I'm not here to flip your house and install electrical panels. I'm here to get you stimulus. Also, like this video. In this video, I'm going to be going over the different scenarios about McConnell. I've seen the comments on 28, which a lot of you really said thank you. I made it clear because I want to make sure it was clear. It's a complex scenario. Today, I'm going to try to make this clear as well. McConnell versus Trump and McConnell versus Biden. I'm going to go over the following 4 scenarios with you because there really is just 4. McConnell with a Biden win and a Senate loss. That becomes Republican. McConnell with a Biden win and a Senate win, where the Senate remains Republican. A Trump win and a Senate loss. The Senate becomes Democratic. And a Trump win and a Senate win. All right, let's go through the 4 scenarios. This is critically important because you need to know when or how your stimulus will be coming to you. And ultimately, I want to say one thing very quickly before I get to it. Someone dropped in the comments of one of the videos yesterday, says something like, LALATE, so typical Republican, so typical Democrat. That's getting old, folks. If you follow me on Instagram, you saw who I voted for. So let's get to the point. All right, let's get to the breaking news. The breaking news is that the future of your stimulus will rest in the hands of the Senate. They won't be so dependent on whether Trump or Biden wins. It's going to be dependent on what's going on in the Senate. Why? Because the way for a bill to become law is it starts in the House, goes to the Senate. If it doesn't pass the Senate, it doesn't go to the president. So it doesn't matter who the president is if it never gets past the Senate. So let's go over the scenarios and what could happen for your stimulus. First, the first 2 scenarios we're going to do are Biden wins. The first one is a Biden win and a Senate that goes Democratic. This means that the Senate, the House, and the presidency all are Democratic. Last time this happened was the first 2 years of the Obama administration. What does that mean for your stimulus? It would mean that potentially the day after Election Day, all the senators who are there who are Republicans that have been longtime Republicans will watch and see that they are no longer controlling party. Now Democrats are, and that they're coming in on January 1st to pass legislation that Nancy Pelosi wants them to pass and that Joe Biden wants them to pass. So will they pass anything between election night and January 1st? Potentially, no. Next, What if there's a McConnell, what if there's a Biden win for the presidency, but the Senate remains Republican? Then, by all accounts, you could see your stimulus approved by the days after election night. Because ultimately you would have the same dichotomy you have today between Pelosi and McConnell. And while they want to be partisan before the election because they want to push for a presidential win, after the election, they have no other reason to be partisan except to be partisan. Then at that point, they have to pass the legislation the way they are set up, which would be a Republican Senate and a Democratic House. There's no option not to pass stimulus. They have to pass something. So they would have to work with the status quo. The bottom line is the people who are in control now would also be in control after Election Day and are also in control after Inauguration Day. So there's no reason to wait to January. They would work on it right away after Election Day. Before I get to scenario 3, let me explain something which is important to the scenario. When Obama won, and he won with Biden as his VP running mate, they came in to replace a Republican president. And they understood that there was a financial crisis with the banks, which is different than what we are here. The banks were going under. There was a big problem with the banks. So what they were able to do was get the Republican leadership to agree with them to pass emergency stimulus relief to ensure that the banks were stabilized so the U.S. economy would not implode on the eve of Inauguration Day. You follow me so far? This is for the purpose of stabilizing the U.S. economy. It's different than, someone's restaurant going under. This is the whole banking system was about to go under. So they had to do something in emergency, and so they did it, and they got cooperation of the Republicans. This time around, we're not there yet. There is a potential always this economy could implode, but we don't see that happening. So would a Biden win allow Biden to get Trump to cooperate with him? I can't say this straight face. Biden to get Trump to cooperate with him and pass emergency relief before Biden comes in January? Absolutely, categorically not. So understand that the fact that Biden wins does not mean you're going to see legislation earlier because it's Biden. The only reason you would see it earlier is if the Senate remained Republican, because they have to start doing stuff, and the fact that the president is Biden doesn't make much of a difference for the scenario. All right, let's go to Trump. There's 2 scenarios for Trump. Scenario for Trump is that the setup is exactly the same. Senate is still Mitch and led by Republicans, and the other scenario is that the Senate goes Democratic. All right, let's do the first scenario. Trump wins re-election, and the Senate goes Democratic. Mitch's group loses the Senate, and now the Senate and the House is Democratic, and the president is reelected. When would the stimulus be done at that point? It would be done right after the election. It would be done right after the election because the president is still the president for January 1st. He's not leaving. And that ultimately the Democrats would understand and the Republicans would understand, the fact that 3 Republicans are leaving and 3 new Democrats are coming to the Senate means much of nothing. Get it done now because ultimately the dichotomy is almost the same. That would suggest doing it now. Now, there's always a scenario that perhaps the Republicans who lost their seats are pissed off of the Senate and they would just say, hey, you know what? I'm just not going to do anything. Deal with it when I leave in January. That is a 50-50 scenario or less than a 50-50 scenario that would happen. The final scenario is if Trump wins and the Senate remains exactly as it is now and Nancy plays exactly. Basically, we have the same cast of characters as we currently have in the Days of Our Lives soap opera we're dealing with right now. When would you get the stimulus? You would get it right after the election, of course. There's no reason to wait for January because nothing's happening in January. It's the same group of nutsos that we're dealing with now. They're still in office after the election. So, they would do it right then. Ultimately, what's important to understand is that when we talk about stimulus, when we talk about McConnell versus Trump and McConnell versus Biden, which this show may become in a few weeks, what's important to understand is there's 2 things at issue. How fast is the stimulus and how big is the stimulus? What I need you to do with me, and this is why we're ramped up today, and this is why we're so focused and positive, is what I need you to do with me is, as Purple Power, make it very loud and clear. We need a lot of stimulus. I am valued. You are valued. Hashtag I am valued. Hashtag you are valued. I don't want you to think that if we have to wait around to December or wait around to November or wait around to January, that we should just roll over and accept a $1,200 stimulus check. Joe Biden is always already talking about coming in January and spending $5 trillion on infrastructure. $5 trillion. How much is he going to spend on stimulus? We don't know. The point of that is that you can interpret that as a good thing. That if there's a Biden win, then you have already made the message very loud and clear over the last couple of weeks. We need a lot more stimulus. You've given big money to airlines. You've given big money to restaurants. You've given big money to all these industries. Start giving us stimulus. Start giving us checks. Your VP running mate, and you've now won with her, she said $2,000 checks every month for 6 months until the pandemic improved or unemployment rate went down. It has been now 6 months. By inauguration day, it will have been upwards of 10-something months approximately. So we need more than $1,200 checks. We're worth more than $1,200 checks. And this is how America's built. What's important to understand is that, I don't mention it on the channel, but I assume you understand this and got this already, is that Democrats tend to spend more money on stimulus. Republicans tend to spend less money on stimulus. Republicans want to tax and spend. They want to spend a lot of money. But this is good for you only if we get it focused correctly. You want them to spend the money on you. You want them to spend the money on you. You don't want them to spend the money on the pothole and the freeway and the structure on the corner and the governor and the governor's lawn and the governor's painting the building. You want them to start spending money on you because you're owed the money. You want to make sure all the provisions are correct. If Nancy Pelosi gets everything she wants and the Democrats get everything that they want and that they come in, you don't want FPUC, for example, to be retroactive to October 30th. Wait a second. I've been waiting for FPUC since July. You don't want these people to play a forgetful game that they tend to do. Oh, you know what? We'll just be retroactive for a few weeks. Nancy Pelosi, in about 3 or 4 press interviews this last week, used the word, and it will be retroactive. And it will be retroactive. But to when? It's good that she's focused on that, but ultimately to when? It's important to understand that McConnell has been a blockade for your stimulus. And that if Trump does not win and Biden wins, the question is whether McConnell's group wins as well. Finally, an important thing that I must go over, which I don't think is, I think is sort of obvious, but sometimes I want to make these things very clear to you, is that McConnell winning versus himself not winning is not the determining factor. Rather, it's when I talk about McConnell's group winning, I mean the Republicans winning the Senate. If the Republicans lose the Senate, but McConnell is reelected, that means the Senate is Democratic. McConnell's winning or not winning does not determine the fate of the Senate passing legislation. With that, please understand, you're owed multiple stimulus checks. You are valued. I am valued. $1,200 stimulus checks for 6 months doesn't cut it. It doesn't cut it. MSC, hashtag MSC. Executive orders are needed. Executive orders are needed right now. We're 10 days away from the election. Executive orders are never going to stop being a subject of this channel in the next 10 days. I'm never going to stop talking about this. Someone in the comments said, how about a Biden executive order? Amen, but he can't sign until after inauguration. Executive orders are never going to stop being a subject of this channel. And you'll never see me stop mentioning them because the president can't do it. That $800 billion is still sitting there. It hasn't been used. It needs to be used. It needs to be reapportioned. And then ultimately, if you don't hear me say it in one particular video, why didn't he mention executive orders? What are he doing? Honey, did you hear me executive orders? Did he mention executive orders? No, it's because, the time of the video was running a little too long. And if it runs more than 19 minutes, then you'll basically see it, 5 days from now based upon upload times. So that is why sometimes you don't hear me say everything in a particular video. As you see in this video, and as you see in the 28 video today, when I give you this detail, there is never a so hence it's this response to it. And I saw a couple comments on the 28 video where people said, so in essence, we're not going to get anything. So essentially, this is the scenario. No. I just went over 4 scenarios. So there is no essentially. So basically, there is no so basically, because it's not basic. There's 4 scenarios and 4 permutations. And in this video, I'm not even going over whether Trump contests the election. That makes everything even more confusing. I don't even go over the issue of whether we need additional lockdowns. That makes everything more confusing. So if you see someone in the comments and so basically, so essentially, so so simply, so basically a fly is going to fly in his face. No, it's not so basically. With that, let me go over some incredible comments and questions from yesterday. Lynn Jacob, McConnell doesn't want to give us the money, but only his rich people. Melinda, they don't care about the American people. Jim, Mitch is going to enjoy his wealth. Show me a person who's rich from being a politician. I'll show you a crook. Mike Mann, Purple Power rocks here in Pittsburgh. Hello, Pittsburgh. Mitch McConnell's a jerk and a troll head for head. Tiffany, this back and forth with clowns is just sickening. Teddy, I figured McConnell's part of the old swamp. Nicole, it's a crime what they're doing to people. It is. Terry, we never get anything. We never get anything. John Waddle, it's going to be a hunger winter in many households. George M. Mitch would prefer to give you stimulus check to a billionaire. Gig life with Lexi. Mitch is only a Grinch. Ashley, things are about to get extremely dark. I'm scared. These people are just scum. Andrew, Mitch McConnell's a crook. Gary, when winter hits some of the most popular areas, these homeless will get even sicker. Hospitals will be overcrowded. But Mitch and Nancy won't be losing any sleep. James Parley, Mitch is a crook. Rosala, I'm telling you that Moscow Mitch is not going to do nothing but for his donors and corporations. Juanetta, what kills me, everyone thinks this is a joke. How are other countries laughing at us? These people are playing us like a fool. Kick him out. Ella Neal, well, it's Friday and still nothing. No. But ultimately, the fact that there's nothing today doesn't mean that there won't be nothing tomorrow. Purple Power unite. Purple Power go on hashtags. Purple Power go on Twitter. Purple Power push. Hashtag MSC. Hashtag seats for stimulus. Hashtag I am valued. Hashtag you're valued. We're not going to step down. We're not going to roll over. We're not going to get eaten up by a fly. We're going to push back. Because ultimately you're owed. You're valued. You're owed a lot of money, and these people haven't paid a lot of money. It's time they start paying. It's time that you start getting the stimulus you're deserved and owed and valued for. And it doesn't matter if Trump wins. It doesn't matter if Biden wins. Doesn't matter. What matters is that you get the stimulus. And what we'll do as a group and family is find that stimulus. We'll get them point from here to there. You ultimately will get stimulus. The question is how much. And the question is how far we can push them to give you more.